Good evening, everyone. We'll start this session in just maybe 2 minutes.
Good
evening. Okay, all right. All right, students in YouTube, are they able to hear me? Chat में लिख दो सब लोग. Hi, hello.
Hi.
Yes, no. Hi, Wahid. Okay, all right. All right, guys. So I'll not unmute you, okay? But just make sure that you only unmute yourself if in case there is a doubt or a question, okay? And we'll start the session. So, all right. So good evening, everyone. Today's topic or today's live session is on one of the firewalls, which is taking a lot of space in the internet. People are looking for engineers who are some way or the other have either experience on FortiGate Firewall, or they at least know how to work on the FortiGate Firewall. Okay. All right. Okay. So first of all, let's go ahead and see what exactly this is all about. Okay. So thoda sa, 2-4 minute ka PPT presentation hai, and then we'll quickly, switch over to the practical stuff. All right. Okay. Okay, so getting to know the market leader. So we are going to talk about FortiGate Firewall. Now, FortiGate is the product and Fortinet is the company. All right. So just like you have Cisco as a company and ASA is its product, right? So just like that, FortiGate is a product and Fortinet is the company. A lot of students, at times they do ask me, that is it Fortinet or is it FortiGate? So I told them, see, it's a product. Fortinet is basically the company. All right. Okay. Now, when it comes to the FortiGate, you can all see right in the screen that it says getting to know the market leader. तो ये market leader क्यों है? Why are we saying this कि ये market leader है? I mean, just because मैंने बोल दिया तो ये market leader हो गया. Just because I'm saying this is market leader, so is it a market leader? पता नहीं. Let's see. Let's try to figure out why is it so. Okay. And we'll all talk about the facts and figures. ठीक है? कोई nothing just promises or something like that. Very much plain old simple facts, figures, and then we'll work on why we need to know FortiGate and why we need to learn FortiGate right now. Because if anybody who wants to take that jump in his career or in his or her career, it is important to understand the FortiGate firewall. Guys, I'll go ahead and mute yourself. Okay, I've muted everyone. Okay. So before we go ahead and understand the FortiGate firewall, let's try to understand the instructor first. ठीक है, 2 मिनट लूंगा, ज़्यादा नहीं. So guys, my name is Rakshit Vidyarthi and I have around 11 years of experience. Okay, now this 11 years of experience is entirely on network and cybersecurity. Okay, now this whole experience that I have has been on working on a lot of devices. I've worked on Cisco devices, I have worked on Juniper devices, I have worked on SonicWall, I have worked on FortiGate Firewall. All right, I have worked on a lot of other vendors as well. Now, what I wanted to tell you over here is that I do not have any technical degree for that matter. Okay, if anybody who is trying to get into this field, let me tell you one thing. I come from this background, which is called as BCom, which is Bachelor of Commerce. All right. Now, I don't have any technical degree, as I said. Mine is purely on the basis of my skills. Okay. My whole experience is all on the basis of my skills. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay. So anybody who wants to get into this IT networking field or IT cybersecurity field, what this field basically requires is your skills. Okay, what kind of skills do you have? What kind of certifications that you possess? That is what is required, which would basically lift you from wherever you are to your next level. Okay, so I started off with CCNA. Okay, that's That's the basic, right? Every engineer out there, if he wants to get into the networking field, what he does, CCNA, right? Okay, so I started off with the CCNA, then I went off to CCNP, then CCNA security, then I went for the CCIE security. Okay, now CCI security, I will be very honest. This is two parts. One is the written part, and the other is the lab. All right. Now, while I was doing the CCI, I completed my CCI written, and I got the job, so I couldn't go for the lab. All right, so I didn't do that, but I did till written. So, anyways, I then switched over to the Juniper. I worked with Juniper TAC. So TAC is basically, it's called this Technical Assistance Center, which is basically product based or vendors based engineers who basically know in and out of that product, so that if any client basically comes to them for any questions or any doubts, if there is any tickets which is being raised by that particular vendor, by that particular client, I would go ahead, take a remote session and see if they are what exactly the problem is and what kind of issues that they are facing. Okay. Okay. All right. Guys, all of you, I think I'm getting a lot of requests to remote control. Gayan, Min, please make sure that you do not all, go ahead and do all these things. Give me 1 minute. Okay. Right. Okay. No worries. I have removed them, which are trying to make a fuzz around here. Anyways, that's fine. These kind of people always are there. Anyways, let's go back. So this is all about me. I have worked with Juniper. I have worked with SonicWall. I have worked with the FortiGate NEC4 and NEC7. NEC7 is just like CCIE, but in Fortinet. Okay, so it's like the highest level of certification that you can go for. You still have NSE8, but then that is another discussion for another time. But let's move on to the topic of today, which is FortiGate Firewall. Okay. All right. Now, before I go ahead and start talking about this FortiGate Firewall, let's do one thing. Let's make this an interactive session, and let's try. This is just for all those persons who are either new to the networking field, or there are people who are basically new to the firewall or basically new to the security team. Okay. All right. So let's keep this a little bit of interactive. All of you guys, just let me know in the chat window, what do you think is the difference between a firewall and a router? According to you, what is the difference between a firewall and a router? Chat window. YouTube पे डालो, Zoom पे डालो. All of you guys, what is the difference between a router and a firewall? Okay. Yes. Okay, so a lot of people are saying router's job is to route the data. Okay, so in a way, yes. What else does the router do? Anything else that the router can do apart from routing the traffic? Anything else that the router can do? Raj says no difference, both act the same. Okay. Firewall is a security device, router is a connection. Okay. Okay, Venkat says can block the traffic. Abhinav, firewall maintains session table and routing table. Okay. All right. Venkat says with the ACI as well. All right. Okay. So yes, in a way you are correct. Now, see what happens is when we are talking about a router, right, and whenever we are talking about something which is called as a firewall, okay. Obviously, when it comes to a router, the main job is to ensure that you are able to route the traffic. Okay, so I mean, if there is any traffic, let's say for example, okay, let's do one thing. Let's do this. What is the first thing that the router will do when it reach? So let's say for example, this is a PC. Okay, now this PC is trying to get to another PC, which is over here. Let's say this is Google. Okay, now PC1 is trying to connect to google.com. As soon as this traffic, or as soon as this packet reaches the router, what is the first thing that the router will do? First thing that the router would do over here. Okay, check the destination. Okay, it is going to check the routing table. Okay, all right, so let's चलो confuse करता हूँ. Destination check करेगा कि routing table पहले check करेगा? What do you think? What is the first thing that the router would do? Will it check the destination, or is it going to check the the routing table? Okay, okay, all right. Destination prefix. Okay, good. Dynamic routing. Okay, dynamic routing again. It's after it checks the router. It checks the routing path. Okay, first of all, obviously it's going to look into the destination prefix. Okay, and oopsie, it's going to look into the destination prefix, and once it knows that, okay, if the destination is part of the local segment or not, if it is part of a different segment, it is going to look for the routes. Okay, so it is going to do something which is called as the route lookup. What is the next thing that the router would do? Route lookup is done. Okay, I know what route I need to take. What else? Right, Akshay. Okay. Right. See, so once the route lookup is done, there is also one thing which is called as the ACL, right? I need to figure out that whether whatever the traffic is, okay, is it allowed or not? Because if it is not allowed, I'm basically going to drop that packet. Okay, so ACL is also a major part when it comes to a router. I mean, if it has been implemented. Okay, so if, let's say, for example, let's say I have something which is called as 0.0.0.0.0, and I say 192.168.10.1, which is my gateway. This is the destination. Okay, and I say IP route. What does this command is telling you? This command is basically telling you that if there is whatever the destination is, any destination, just forward that traffic to the gateway. And my gateway is 192.168.10.1. Okay, and this is also an ACL in place, which basically says whatever the traffic is, it is allowed. Now, tell me one thing. Let's say I'm trying to access google.com, right? Now, if I'm accessing google.com, what is the first packet that goes? It's a TCP SYN packet, right? Correct or not? Yes or no? Is it a TCP SYN packet or is it something else? Yes, right. So it's a TCP SYN packet. So what should I expect from the google.com or from the server? What should I expect? What should be the next packet? Okay. So Joy says SYNAC. Abhinav says SYN reply. Abhinav this would be basically SYNAC. SYN plus ACK. In a way, reply also you can say, but then the more technical terminology that to be used would be a SYN ACK. Okay, SYN is basically its own synchronization packet, and ACK is basically the acknowledgement number that is being used to tell the PC that I have also acknowledged your SYN packet. Okay, now tell me one thing. If this SYN plus ACK comes to the router is going to do what? It's going to drop the packet. Why? Because ACL is just from inside to outside. Okay, the ACL that I have in place is only for inside to outside. To ensure that I also receive the traffic, I need to again create an ACL which is from outside to inside, right? So I should have two ACLs, right? Am I not? Yes, no, maybe नहीं समझ में आ रहा है, confusion है कुछ? Correct. Okay. All right. So what I know over here is that if I'm working with the router, I need to have two ACL. Okay. Why? Because one would be to ensure that the traffic is basically going from inside to outside, and one from outside to the inside. Okay. All right. Do you know what this concept is called? This is basically, this is, see, what is this in and out to in? What am I trying to do over here? What I'm trying to do over here is basically, this is a state of who? The packet, right? Now, router does not have any intelligence that it could save this information, the state of the packet, so that it can understand what I need to do. But when it comes to a firewall, okay, apart from having a routing table, which it obviously have, okay, apart from your route table, they also have something which is called as the, tell me, क्या होता है, क्या बोलते हैं, स्टेट टेबल, स्टेटफुल टेबल बोल सकता हूँ. ओके, स्टेटफुल टेबल बोल लो, स्टेट टेबल बोल लो, सेशन टेबल बोल लो, ठीक है, ये एक ही बात है. शेक्सपियर ने भी बोला, नाम में क्या रखा है. बट माय पॉइंट ओवर इज कि firewall basically also have one thing which is called as the stateful firewall. It basically has something which is called as a stateful table or a session table. Now what this means to us, what it means to us as an engineer or a firewall administrator, okay, see, what this basically means for us is quite simple. See, whenever there is, let's say this is a PC over here, again, same setup, okay, this is Google. Now as soon as I send this traffic, I have a SYN packet going in. Okay. Now what the firewall will do is, see, rather than having an ACL, firewall have something which is called as a policy, right? Policy is also a way, in a way, it's an ACL, which basically tells that what kind of traffic is either allowed or what kind of traffic is denied, right? Now over here, also, I say, source can be any, destination can be any. Just an example, service, can please never do this in your environment, service any, okay, and I say allow. So this policy will do what? This policy will ensure that whatever the traffic which is coming from my inside to the outside is allowed. Am I right or not? Yes or no? Confusion to nahi hai? Good. Now I'm keeping it very simple. All right. So people who are basically starting off in the security department or in this field who wants to basically learn this firewall, we'll keep this simple. Okay. See, so we have this policy, right? Now this policy is allowing everything from inside to outside. Okay, great. Now tell me one thing. Once the traffic comes back, so SYN-ACK bhi to aayega, hai na? I will also get a SYN-ACK, right? Because Google will also, give me a reply back. So I'll get a SYN-ACK. Now, what this firewall will do is, it also has something which is called as the session table, right? State table, stateful table, whatever you want to call this. But we have something which is called as a session table. Now, what does this session table has? See, session table basically has information about, first is the source IP. Okay. Then you have something which is called as the destination IP. Okay. Chalo batao. Tell me, kya hoga aur? Anybody who has experience or anybody who has worked on it, who might have seen it. Okay, Venkat says source port. Good. I have source port. What else? Rajneesh also source port. Abhinav says DP. DP का क्या मतलब होता है Abhinav? Display picture. DP. चलो, destination port. Okay, Rajni, destination port. Abhinav, destination port. Okay, what else? और क्या होता है? What else do we have? Kunal says session time. Let's say time. What else? Amit says source MAC, destination MAC. Okay. We have something which is called as the session ID. Okay, so what happens is I have source IP, destination IP, source port, destination port, the time, basically the time at which the traffic came to me, and the session ID. So session ID is basically an alphanumeric value generated by the firewall by itself for its own identification. Now what it does is, let's say for example, IP address is 10.1.1.1, destination IP is 164.100.1.1. Okay, source port is, let's say, 51,265. Destination port, batao ji, google.com hai, what should be the destination port? 443. Good. Chalo, 𝐊𝐢𝐬 is very active. Good. Okay, so destination port 443. Time. So time basically depends on wherever your FortiGate firewall is, or basically whatever firewall that you have. Time depends on where is your firewall location, geographical location, and whatever time that it has received that packet. So abhi, what time it is? It's 7:20. Okay, so 7:20 p.m. All right, then we have some session ID. So let's say alpha hashtag 17BH5. Let's just say एक number hai. Okay, now see what happens is that once I have all this information, okay, so let me just remove a couple of things so that becomes a little bit cleaner. Okay, see now what happens over here is that when I have all this information, what will happen is जब traffic बाहर जाता है, whenever the traffic is going out with the SYN packet, right, I have saved all this information. Okay, I've also saved something which is called as the TCP state. Okay, this is also one thing which is being saved. So it says SYN packet. Okay, so I know that the SYN packet is going out. I know the source IP, destination IP, source port, destination port, time, session ID, all those things. I have this information. Now what happens is when I get a SYN back, when I get a reply back as a SYN ACK, right? SYN plus ACK. What happens is, first of all, firewall, rather than looking into the routing table, rather than looking into the firewall policy, do you know what it does the first time? It is going to look into the session table. First thing it does, it's going to look into the session table. It doesn't look for the route, doesn't look for the firewall policy. It first checks the session table just to confirm whether the traffic which I have just received, this SYN plus ACK, is it a part of a packet which was initiated internally, or is it a new packet? Okay, so it's going to look into the packet, it's going to look into the session table. It finds out that, okay, I have source IP this, destination IP this, source port this, destination port this, and SYN ACK would basically have destination port as 443, and the source port as 443, and destination port as 51265, because it's a reply, right? So this will be the source port, this will be the destination port, right? So now by looking into this information, okay, not just this port information or the rest of the information as well, looking at that, the firewall knows that, okay, it's not a new packet, it's an old packet which was originated from the inside. Okay, now since it's a packet which was originated from the inside, I do not need any other firewall policy or an ACL be applied on this. I will use the same firewall policy and allow the traffic. Okay, so I'll be using just one policy and I'll be allowing the traffic. This is called as stateful sessions. Okay, stateful technology, you can also say. So this is how basically a firewall ensures that just by using one firewall policy, you are allowing the traffic which is going from inside to outside, and if the traffic from the outside is also coming for the same session, okay, it is going to allow that traffic as well. You do not need to have two policies or two ACLs for the same traffic, which we had to do in a router. Okay, this is the major difference between a router and a firewall. Now, why am I telling you all this? See, the reason is very simple enough, that whenever you so let's say for example, a lot of my students, what they do is, जो 2 साल के experience है या जिनको 3 या 4 साल का experience है, they are looking to go into this field of security. They want to look work on the firewalls, and when they sit in an interview, and interviewer also know कि भाई ठीक है, this guy is actually coming from a networking background, so he hasn't worked on the any firewalls, but then he does have firewall knowledge. Chalo ji, बताओ, what is session table, what is sessionless connection, what is a stateful connection, ये क्या चीज है, what exactly are these things? ठीक है, अगर तुम्हें कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं पता होगा तो तुमको वो आगे इंटरव्यू में बैठने ही नहीं देगा, राइट? बड़ी सिंपल सी बात है. एक बात बताओ, अगर तुमसे कोई पूछे कि भाई how much experience do you have in your networking field? You say, sir, I have let's say 3 years of experience. Okay. He says, okay, all right, fine. Go ahead and tell me what is a TCP three-way handshake. अब अगर तुमसे TCP three-way handshake नहीं बताया गया तो तुमसे क्या आगे इंटरव्यू में कुछ बात करेगा? नहीं करेगा, right? This is exactly what happens when you are working on a firewall as well. Okay, if you do not know what is a stateful table or what is a stateless connection, what is a stateful connection, state table क्या होती है, session table कैसे क्या बनती है, firewall कैसे information check करता है, कैसे firewall policies apply होती हैं, अगर ये नहीं पता होगा, if you do not know this, all right, the interview will basically understand that he does not know much and this guy is not the right candidate for the job. Okay, so even if you go for 5 interviews, 10 interviews, end of the day क्या बोलोगे? यार नौकरी नहीं मिल रही, जॉब नहीं मिल रही, इंटरव्यू बहुत टफ है. बट एक्चुअली प्रॉब्लम क्या है? प्रॉब्लम ये है दैट यू डू नॉट हैव द राइट नॉलेज. ओके, सो व्हाट वी आर डूइंग ओवर हियर इज गिविंग यू द राइट इंफॉर्मेशन, द राइट नॉलेज, practical knowledge which would help you basically gain confidence and apply that knowledge in your interview to get that job, to get that promotion that you want. Okay, all right, so ठीक है, so this is firewall versus router. Just a quick discussion what it was. Okay, every firewall is a router but not every router is a firewall. In one line इसको समराइज कर देते हैं कि हर एक फायरवॉल राउटर की तरह तो काम करता ही है, बट हर एक राउटर जो है वो फायरवॉल की तरह काम नहीं कर सकता. ऑलराइट, ओके, सो लेट्स मूव अहेड. ओके, नाउ व्हाई डू वी नीड FortiGate? क्यों चाहिए भाई? why all the fuss? Why all this thing? See, easy to implement and understand. One of the best features of your FortiGate firewall is that it is very easy to implement. Okay, I'll tell you why exactly this is, because we have one more session tomorrow. Okay, so it is very easy to implement as compared to different vendors. They have a very complex setups, but then with FortiGate it is very easy to set up. Okay, easy to understand. I'll let you know that tomorrow as well. हम लोग कल थोड़ा सा टेक्निकल और बात करेंगे. Stepping stone into security domain, absolutely right. Stepping stone for your security domain. Anybody who wants to get a career in this field, I would definitely go ahead and say that, rather than, see, I do not say कि भाई do not go for Checkpoint or do not go for Palo Alto. Absolutely go for them as well. But then if you compare them, all right, FortiGate is much easier to understand, it much easier to grasp and work on as compared to the other vendors. Once you understand this thing, your next step could be Checkpoint or Palo Alto or whatever you want to. Okay, but I would say if you want to get into this field, this is the stepping stone. Okay, security concepts made simple. Yes, that is why I'm here. This is my job to make sure that the concept is very much simple for you guys. Okay, even if you're a layman who does not have any knowledge, just basic networking, that is more than sufficient. But yes, at least basic networking pata honi chahiye. Okay, so who to enterprise, this is basically a small office to home office, basically small setup of 4 to 5 people or 10 people to basically 1,000 of people, 1,000 of users or 10,000 users or even more than that. We have something which is called as Gartner Report. ये क्या है? Okay, ये report card नहीं, which we used to get in school, and we had to get this signed. More or less, it tells you about all the security vendors that you have. Okay, whatever security vendors that you have. Okay, it grades them, it ranks them according to the market standard, according to what is required in the market, and how are they performing in the market. Okay, so this is what the Gartner report is. It is an organization, it is an entity, okay, which basically ranks the security vendors: Palo Alto, Checkpoint, Fortinet, SonicWall, CyberArm, Cisco, you name it, F5, load balancer, whatever it is. So all these vendors are being rated. Okay, all right, now let's do one thing. Let's go ahead and show you. This is what is called as the Gartner report. Okay, so like काम करते हैं. I'll go ahead and show this on the actual browser. ठीक है, what you can do is do this today. Open up your browser, go ahead, search for fortinet.com. Okay, this is the first page that you will get, and the first page is the leader in the 2021 Gartner Magic Quadrant. So the Gartner report is basically released every year, okay, by the time of October, November, and they rank all the kind of firewall vendors and all the security vendors that they have. Okay, so look over here, this is the Gartner report. Okay, now this is the 2021. Let me show you if I can. Yes, Are you able to see this, all of you? Yes, no, maybe? Okay, all right, good. See, now over here, what we are trying to talk is that, see, this is called as the Gartner Report. Okay, now Gartner Report has something which is called as the ability to execute. And then you have something which is called as the completeness of vision, right? All of you are able to see the screen. No problem with the scene. Yes, chat पे लिख दो, आ रहा है नहीं आ रहा है? Yes, good. Okay, all right, proper, good. See, when I say ability to execute, what it basically means is that whatever company that you are, whatever company that we have over here on the market, how quickly they are able to take decisions. Okay. Okay. Completeness of vision. So vision is basically their target plan. Okay. Maybe for the next 10 years or 20 years. Okay. 10 to 20 years. All right. Now what happens is that the decisions, how quickly they take the decisions and what is their plan. Okay. So this segment is basically people who are, these are called niche players. Niche players basically means that they do not have a great vision for the next 20 years or maybe 30 years. Okay. But they know what is required right now. Okay. And they're able to do that as well. So whatever is required right now in the market, they are able to provide that. Okay. Good, bad, doesn't matter, but they're able to provide that. Okay. This is one. Second is called as the visionaries. Now, visionaries basically means that they do have a great plan for the next coming 20 to 30 years. Okay. But their ability to execute is not that effective. Okay. So they are good what they need to do in the next 10, 20 years, 30 years. Great. But they're not able to execute it fast enough to get to that particular plan that they have. So Versa Networks, Barracuda, these kind of vendors are come under the category of visionaries. All right, so this is second. Now we have some third, which is called as the challengers. Challengers are people who have great executionary powers. They might not have plans for 20 years or 30 years, but whatever is required right now in the market, they are able to perform that. They are able to execute. They are able to provide that information, or they are able to provide that services or features right now. Cisco, one of the challengers. Okay. Juniper, one of the challenges. It's basically sliding. I don't know if you look into the last 3 years or 4 years of Gartner report, you will see that the Juniper was basically one time it was a leader, but now it is slipping down to the challenger section. Huawei, Microsoft, Alibaba, these are all challengers. Great executionary powers. They're able to execute whatever is required right now. Then you have something which is called as the fourth one, which is the leader section. Now, leader section basically means great vision, great executionary powers. Okay, so they exactly know what they need to do in the next 20 years and 30 years, and their executionary powers is also impeccable. So they are able to execute whatever is required right now, plus what is required in the next coming 10 years, coming 20 years. Over here we have Palo Alto, one number, then we have Fortinet, second number, and then Checkpoint as, I don't know, again, they are sliding from the last couple of years. They are sliding down. Not sure why. But anyways, Palo Alto is at the top, a little beneath Fortinet, and then we have Checkpoint. Okay. So see, when it comes to the leader quadrant, how many people you see over here? You have 3 people, right? So the advice that I always say, or I always give, is that whoever is in the leader quadrant, learn them. Because if you learn them, you are going to be in the market, you are going to be in demand in the market, because obviously Palo Alto is required, Fortinet is required, Checkpoint is required. Okay, now Fortinet basically makes sure that your concepts is easy to understand. So if in case you want to move on to the next firewall, you can definitely go with the Palo Alto. If you understand Fortinet clear enough, you would be able to understand Palo Alto much more easier. If you directly go to that, I'm not saying you will not be able to understand, obviously, but then it's like taking the CCNP directly. Okay, it's going to be a little bit tough, but then you will be able to eventually get that. But if you take the CCN and then CCNP, it will be easier for you because you already know the concepts, right? That is what it is. Okay, so let me go ahead and quickly show you a couple of Fortinet products that we have. Okay, so what you can do is we'll go into the network security, next generation firewall. Okay, just to give you an idea of what exactly Fortinet is, what is FortiGate, how the products look like. Okay, see models and specifications. We'll click on this. Okay, now 1800. So 1800 is like is a high-end FortiGate firewall. 2600, 4200. These are all higher-end 1000 series or 4000 series or 5000 series are basically a high-end FortiGate firewalls. Okay, let's just take one of them. Okay. Okay, so this is Fortinet FortiGate 4201F model. Okay, this is a very higher end, not very, but higher end FortiGate firewall. Okay, now see over here, you can very much see that the you have a console, you have a USB, you have two management interfaces. Okay, now these two management interfaces is basically if you want to connect or if you want to directly connect to the management of the FortiGate firewall, you can use the RJ45 cable to do that. Okay, then you have something which is called as the HA cable. You have HA1, HA2, then you have aux1 and aux2. Aux1 is also called as auxiliary. Auxiliary is just like an alternate of your console. If in case console goes bad, if the console is not available, you can use the auxiliary. It's more or less the same. Okay, Acha, have you guys noticed one thing? Don't you feel this port's a little bit different? They do not look like a RJ45 connector, right? What is this? Anybody? Any guesses? What do you think this is? Ajoy is always, the first one to, type in. Good. Richa is always the second one, and then we have Rajneesh, Pranay. Okay, great. So these are all called as SFP ports. What is SFP? What is SFP? Gordon says fiber. Good. What is SFP? Can anybody give me a full form of SFP? Come on, Ajoy. Can you? What is the full form of SFP? Anybody in the YouTube, guys? Ashwath, what is SFP? Smriti, what is an SFP port? What is the full form of an SFP port? Any ideas? Nahi hai? No problem. Okay. All right. See, SFP is called as small form factor portable. Okay, small form factor portable. That is no, it is not switch fabric port, Smriti. It's small form factor. Okay, pluggable is also that is P is for pluggable. Okay. Okay, so these are basically, so what happens is RJ45 or Ethernet cabling goes till for 1 gig. Okay, but SFPs or fiber starts from 1 gig, they go till 10 gig, they go over and above till 40 gig. Okay, you can do that. So that is what these ports are. We'll talk about this in great details. So you can see till 16 you have these ports, then you have 17 and 18, which is, see again, do you see this QSFP? This is what I'm talking about. These are 10 gigs and 40 gigs. Okay, higher end where you can basically have one cable which can be used for 40 gig of data coming in and out. That is what it is. Okay, this is called as 4200 series FortiGate firewall. Chalo, let's do one thing. Let's get inside this FortiGate firewall and see what do we have inside this whole covering. Okay, so let's get in. Okay, all right. So now over here we'll see information, or we'll basically look into the hardware chips that we have. Okay, now let's have a look over here. Do you see this Fortinet? It says the chip that you have, the CPU chip. What is this called as? 40 SPU. Now 40 SPU is basically, these are called hardware chips. Okay, these are called as 40 ASICs. Okay, what is 40 ASIC? 40 ASIC are basically hardware chips which is installed apart from your CPU and your memory. Why do we need that? See, what happens is Fortinet came with this idea that if we have dedicated chips, okay, which would be able to handle the traffic, then my CPU and memory will be free to take up the new sessions which is coming in. Okay, so what the CPU and memory, what it does in the FortiGate firewall is that whatever kind of traffic comes in, first of all, the first packet always goes to the CPU. That is how it is designed. The first packet always goes to the CPU. CPU then decides whether do I have to send this traffic to whatever hardware chip that I have, or do I have to process it again? Okay. See, do you see this NP7 right top corner, 4x into 4x NP7? What do you know what this is? See, NP7 is the full form is basically called as network processor. Now, network processor, as the name goes or as the name suggests, all the traffic which is more or less dedicated to a network layer of the OSI model. Okay. Now, can anybody give me an example? Any protocol or any traffic which is dedicated to network layer only? Chat पे लिखो. Yeah. So Rajni says IP, Sanchit says ICMP, Kunal ICMP, Sanchit OSPF. Good example. Okay. Abhinav says, sir, repeat the question. Okay. Abhinav, the question is that at network layer, can you name any protocol which is used only on network layer, nowhere else? Pratik says IP, Shruti IP. Okay. What? Anything else apart from IP? Okay. Guys, you're तुम लोग भूल रहे हो यार, VPN का भी तो कुछ होता है. VPN के पैकेट्स भी तो होते हैं, NAT भी होता है, right? But NAT is again, it's not a protocol, right? IPsec. Okay. So again, my point over here is that all the traffic which is dedicated to the network layer, okay, OSPF, BGP, IPsec VPN, ICMP, okay, these things are basically handled by your network processors. Okay. Then we have something which is called as the CP. CP is called as content processor. Okay. See, we'll talk about something which is called as content inspection, security inspection tomorrow. Okay. We'll talk about UTM, we'll talk about antivirus, we'll talk about IPS, application control. Okay, these are all things are called a security inspection. Just to give you a layman example, all of you guys have a laptop, right? Yes, no? All of you guys have a laptop. All of you have a antivirus on your machine, right? सबके पास एंटीवायरस है, चाहे वो गूगल चाहे वो विंडोज डिफेंडर ही हो, बट सबके पास एंटीवायरस है. विंडोज डिफेंडर अपडेट भी होता है. व्हाई डज इट अपडेट इटसेल्फ? To ensure that whatever viruses are on the internet, your system is basically safe from them. That is why you update your antivirus, right? So that is also happened on the firewall as well. कोई भी firewall उठाओ, it also has antivirus, it also has IPS, it also has web content filtering. Okay, what all these things are? This is all security concerns, security features. Okay, so anything which is dealing with the security inspection, security features of the traffic, that is being handled by a hardware chip which is called as CP, content processor. So let me unpause this. I hope this should tell that as well. Okay. Does it show about the CP? Yes, that is what I'm talking about. CP. So 8x CP. So 8x CP is basically it's saying it has 8 hardware chips of CP. Now what is CP? 9? 9 is the level. So basically it starts off from CP1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if you have a smaller hardware, you'll have a smaller CP. If you have a bigger hardware, you will have a bigger hardware CP. Okay, so bigger hardwares have a CP9, smaller hardwares may have 3 CP3 or CP5, but it also tells you how many CP, how many content processor it has. So you have 8 hardware chips which is being called as content processors. They are called as content processors 9, which is the latest one. Okay, so all kind of inspection, all kind of security inspection which happens, कंटेंट प्रोसेसर लुक्स इनटू दैट. ठीक है, अभी इतना क्लियर है? नेटवर्क प्रोसेसर का कोई बोलेगा तो तुम उसको बता पाओगे नहीं कि नेटवर्क प्रोसेसर क्या चीज है. अगर कोई पूछेगा कंटेंट प्रोसेसर क्या है तो बता पाओगे नहीं, हाँ या ना, यस नो? वुड यू बी एबल टू टेल व्हाट इज एन एमपी और व्हाट इज एन एनसीपी? इतना बता लोगे एटलीस्ट, कुछ नहीं तो वन लाइनर में? यस, गुड. Okay, all right, so let me go ahead and exit this. Okay, see, so these are the firewalls. All right, so 7000 series, again, this is a huge firewall. This is for ISP level, Airtel, Jio, or whatever it is, whatever company that you're working with. Okay, if you want to look into this, what you can do is you can go over here, you can select chassis, then you have the ultra high end, then you have the high end. So see, as of now it is chassis. So what series you are getting? It's FortiGate 7000 series, FortiGate 5000 series. So I have this. Okay, in my environment I work on the 5000 series model. Okay, now I basically make sure that I handle traffic coming from Jammu Kashmir till Kanyakumari. So all kind of traffic is, I have around 80 firewalls and all the other kind of devices as well. They are all in a centralized infrastructure, and there are a couple of devices which is in a decentralized infrastructure. So I take care of all those guys. My point over here is that you should know the concepts in a way so that even if the network is huge, you should not be able to you should not panic, and you should not be able to get into a place where you do not know what you need to do. Okay, so FortiGate basically gives you that space where you will be able to understand. See, what the good thing is that once you understand the operating system of your FortiGate firewall, doesn't matter what FortiGate model that you're using. Smaller FortiGate firewall, no problem. Higher FortiGate model, no problem. Why? Because you know the operating system. See, I'll tell you what. All of you guys have Windows 10 in your operating system. ठीक है? सबके लैपटॉप में Windows 10 है कि नहीं? हाँ या ना? Okay. Now tell me one thing. क्या फर्क पड़ता है कि HP का लैपटॉप हो कि Lenovo का लैपटॉप हो, डेल का हो या सोनी का हो? क्या फर्क पड़ता है? तुम्हें ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम आता है कि नहीं? जब ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम आता है तो तुम्हें हार्डवेयर से फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. Okay, this is what I want to tell you over here. The way we are going to teach you this will basically help you to understand the operating system and its features. उसके बाद doesn't matter you are working on the 5000 series या तुम entry level के 60E पे काम कर रहे हो, doesn't matter. Okay, so you would be able to cover up all this from the top chassis till entry level to the virtual machines. Okay, we are going to tell you the virtual machines as well. So anyway, it will A to Z, it will be covered for you guys. Okay, so go over here, check out the different kinds of model that you have, how much of the threat protection, the NSSL inspection, all these things, what are these things. Achha, do one thing, go through them and tell me if you're able to understand these terminologies or not. If you're not able to understand this terminology, we'll talk about this again, maybe tomorrow. Okay, but I want you guys to question. Okay, all right. Now, next is, okay, understood, fine. I went through the course, no problem at all. What about the job? Chalo, so let's do one thing. Let's go into the Naukri.com portal. Now, Naukri is, again, it's an Indian portal for all the kind of jobs that you have. Okay. Now, if anybody of you are basically outside the country, whatever job portals that you guys have, you can go and search over there as well. What do you need to search? Simple. Go ahead and type FortiGate. Okay, so as of now it says that over here we have around 6367 jobs for FortiGate. Okay, we have Hexaware, we have Indico, NetAccess, Microland, Rubik Infotech, that's a good company to work. FutureNet, NMS, Orange Business Services, that's also a good company to work with. Okay, Tech Mahindra, Ultron is very good if you are basically want to get into the tech field, or if you want to go into hardcore, technology and networking and security, Ultron is also a good place to work with. Okay, my point over here is you have all the kind of job portals which are able to give you that experience, which are able to basically love to work with you if in case you are, in that company. Okay, so Ashwat says he is already working at Orange. Great. Okay, all right. So my point over here is that there are jobs. You just need to ensure that if you have 3 years of experience or 4 years of experience, there are so many companies out there who would love to hire you if you know the concepts fully. Okay, all right. Now what I wanted to tell you about this over here is that fine, that okay, we have all these things, fine, I got this. Now what next? What is the course all about? What information is covered? What all features is covered? So let me go ahead and show you. Okay, so this is the course. Now over here, the FortiOS 7.0 is basically the latest one. Okay, now part 1 is called as the FortiGate security. This is very much in sync with the official curriculum of the FortiGate firewall. Now, why do I have this? See, the reason is very simple, that over here I want you guys to go through the official curriculum. The reason is that if you know and go through the official curriculum, even if you want, let's say for example, maybe in December or maybe in January, okay, not December, maybe in January or Feb, you want to go for a certification, you want to get into the FortiGate certification, okay, you can go for that. बस जितना पढ़ाया है वो सारा का सारा अच्छे से पढ़ लो इन एंड आउट, ठीक है, एंड यू वुड बी एबल टू गेट योर सर्टिफिकेशन फॉर FortiGate. ओके, ये इतना 100% है, बट 100% पढ़ाना कोर्स तो है ही है, बट तुम्हें अपनी तरफ से 100% देना पड़ेगा. Okay, I know how the certification is. I have recently cracked the latest one as well. थोड़ा सा घुमा के पूछते हैं, तो the questions are simple, but they are just going round and around. So you have to read the questions couple of times to understand what exactly the question is saying, and then give the answer. But you do not need to learn anything else apart from what is mentioned over here. Okay. Mohsen, I will be able to give you this doc, no problem at all. Okay, this is basically this is your course. Okay, so you would be able to go through this. So we'll start off with the introduction of the FortiGate firewall, CLI. How do we work with the CLI? What is the configuration backups, administrator accounts, bilkul starting se bilkul basic se. Then we have something which is called as the security fabric. What is a security fabric? We'll talk about this all. Okay, then we have the firewall policies, we have NAT, then we have the firewall authentication, log, certificate operations, web filtering. Again, now this is all security inspection, security features, application control. Okay, so we'll start off, we'll go one by one. These are the 12 topics when it comes to the security part. Then you have something which is called as the infrastructure, which is part 2. Infrastructure is this basically deals with a lot of implementation. How do you implement, how do you install a firewall in the network? Okay, so what kind of routing will it be? What kind of SD-WAN config? So okay, SD-WAN I have added the SD-WAN. Okay, the reason is that SD-WAN is very much required nowadays. Everybody is looking for SD-WAN, so that is why I added this on as well. Okay, all right. Then we have VDOM, transparent mode, IPsec configuration, SSO. This is all about how do you apply this in a network. Okay, all right. This would be your course. We will go one by one, step by step. Okay, let me go ahead and show you your lab.
सर मुझे एक क्वेश्चन था.
कुणाल बस 2 मिनट दे दो, फिर डिस्कस करते हैं.
ठीक है.
All right, so guys, this will be your topology that we are going to work with. Okay, I'm not sure if you're able to understand this, but then this is basically, one side is called as the meta.com, the other side is called as the facebook.com. You will have your HA over here, the high availability, then you have a high availability over here as well. You are also implementing the SD-WAN. You have a MPLS network over here. Okay, you will be going and configuring different kind of NAT environments. You will be switching over the HAs from one location to the other location and making sure that your connection does not break at all. If you're able to work this through, then you would be able to understand and you would be able to know what you need to do to get your FortiGate firewall to work the way you want. How do you troubleshoot this? What kind of troubleshooting logic you want to apply? Okay, all these things would be able to, you would be able to understand and figure out and give your best when it comes to the FortiGate firewall. It's quite easy to work with this and quite easy to troubleshoot on this, because its command is easy, and it's the interpretation, what it comes, whatever debugging you start, the debugging information that you get, it is very simple to understand. Okay, so if you are able to go through this topology, by the end of the course, you would be able to handle your FortiGate firewall. If it is implemented in your environment, you would be able to handle it very efficiently. Okay, all right. So this would be the lab that we are going to work with. Now tomorrow, what we have in store for you guys is that we are going to start off like, maybe you can say that this would be the first class. We are going to talk about the UTM. What is a UTM? What exactly the firewall implementation is? How do you implement this? How do you start the firewall? What kind of configuration you want to go for? Okay, so we'll talk about all those things tomorrow. Okay, all right, go ahead. Ask me questions.
मुझे पूछना था, जैसे मुझे फायरवॉल पे एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है, और
Okay.
एक्चुअली मैंने जो वर्क किया है वो मैं अभी जस्ट फिलहाल वर्क कर रहा हूँ माइक्रोटिक राउटर पे।
ठीक है।
ओके, तो फिर मुझे इसका कुछ मतलब ये हो पाएगा, जैसे फायदा हो पाएगा
बिल्कुल। अगर सी
जॉब में?
यहाँ पे अगेन जो मैंने ये पूरा कॉन्सेप्ट तुम्हें बताया है, ये इसलिए बताया है सो दैट अगर किसी ने सिर्फ राउटर्स के ऊपर भी काम किया है और उसके बाद अगर वो फायरवॉल के ऊपर काम करना शुरू करता है, तो दिस इज द बेस्ट प्लेस टू स्टार्ट विद दैट। द रीजन इज दैट इट इज सिंपल टू अंडरस्टैंड, पहली चीज। और जितने भी सिक्योरिटी कॉन्सेप्ट्स हैं वो फायरवॉल के